Picture this. When you decide to pour fats, oils, or grease down the drain, you are letting those substances harden up and stick to your pipe walls, causing clogs and backups in your home that can eventually lead to expensive repairs. And can also cause gross smells and a nasty situation for your neighborhood and the environment.
You can smell it.
Instead, when the substance cools down, stick it in a plastic container. Make sure the lid is sealed tight and drop it off at your nearest cooking oil recycling station in Hillsborough County. That way, you're helping the environment and saving your family money, so they can buy you that new skateboard you've always wanted.
Alright.
It's a win-win for everyone.
New skateboard? Oh yeah! Your way is definitely better than mine. Let's recycle that grease.
For more information on how you can recycle your fats, oils, or grease, visit hcflgov.net/core.
You know what I like about my morning commute? It's time to reflect. Ponder those big questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Sometimes you just gotta take those bumps in the road and keep on moving forward.
Dude, you couldn't possibly be any more wrong. Stop the car.
That's deep, like me. I can respect that.
Dude, it's a pothole. I could report it to Hillsborough County right now as a customer service request. Just choose your service and select the issue. Your browser pinpoints the problem, and you can add any important information and even take a picture. It puts Hillsborough County at your service 24/7.
Well, all right.
So you have now completed your emergency plan for your family. How about a plan for this family member? Protect your pets during a disaster by including them in your family's emergency plan. Start by making your pet a disaster kit. Put all paperwork into a large Ziploc bag, including a picture of you and your pet, your contact information, vaccination information, and special care instructions. In addition, you should pack certain items to help your pet during the emergency. A 7-day supply of food with bowls, a travel crate, and your pet's favorite toy. Remember, shelters are the place of last resort. Your plan should include being far away from the disaster's epicenter. But if you do find yourself at the shelter, know the rules. Once at the shelter, your pet will be placed in a designated animal section. This is for your pet's safety, as well as other shelter residents. Knowing the shelter rules helps everyone stay safe during an emergency. For more information about shelters, their location, rules, and how to get ready for a disaster, go to hcflgov.net/staysafe.
Hello, Mother. Something smells good.
Good morning, sweetie. I'm making breakfast for you. Can you clean the bacon pan for me?
Sure thing. No, Billy, don't do it. It's bad for your pipes and bad for the environment.
Don't listen to him, Billy. Just pour it down the drain and forget about it. What's a little grease going to do?
Actually, there's a lot that grease can do to damage your home and the environment. Picture this. When you decide to pour fats, oils, or grease down the drain, you are letting those substances harden up and stick to your pipe walls, causing clogs and backups in your home that can eventually lead to expensive repairs. And can also cause gross smells and a nasty situation for your neighborhood and the environment.
You can smell it.
Instead, when the substance cools down, stick it in a plastic container. Make sure the lid is sealed tight and drop it off at your nearest cooking oil recycling station in Hillsborough County. That way, you're helping the environment and saving your family money, so they could buy you that new skateboard you've always wanted.
Alright.
It's a win-win for everyone.
New skateboard? Oh yeah! Your way is definitely better than mine. Let's recycle that grease.
For more information on how you can recycle your fats, oils, or grease, visit hcflgov.net/core.
You know what I like about my morning commute? It's time to reflect. Ponder those big questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Sometimes you just gotta take those bumps in the road and keep on moving forward.
Dude, you couldn't possibly be any more wrong. Stop the car.
That's deep. Like me. I can respect that.
Dude, it's a pothole. I could report it to Hillsborough County right now as a customer service request. Just choose your service and select the issue. Your browser pinpoints the problem, and you can add any important information and even take a picture. It puts Hillsborough County at your service 24/7.
Well, all right.
So you have now completed your emergency plan for your family. How about a plan for this family member? Protect your pets during a disaster by including them in your family's emergency plan. Start by making your pet a disaster kit. Put all paperwork into a large Ziploc bag, including a picture of you and your pet, your contact information, vaccination information, and special care instructions. In addition, you should pack certain items to help your pet during the emergency. A 7-day supply of food with bowls, a travel crate, and your pet's favorite toy. Remember, shelters are the place of last resort. Your plan should include being far away from the disaster's epicenter. But if you do find yourself at the shelter,
Good evening. This is the November 28th, 2018 meeting of the Animal Advisory Committee. My name's Wendy DePaul, and I'm the current chair of the committee. We are going to begin the agenda today with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is welcome and introductions, but I always do the welcome first. So welcome everyone to the meeting. I don't know, I guess we can introduce Dr. Campbell. I know it's Boyd and Campbell, I've got the names now. Dr. Campbell, who is supposed to be giving us a department report today, but I'm not sure if we'll get to that because in case you haven't noticed, we are actually not a quorum today, so we will not be voting on any new business or any old business today. But we will go forward with public comment since we did have some people take the time to come be with us today. So we'll definitely go forward with public comment. Do you have the sheet over there, the sign-in, anyone?
I think it's right there.
No, that's the sign-in for the
Oh, okay.
committee.
Oh, the other
Is there a
sign.
sign?
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, before we start public comment, I do make this statement at the beginning of every public comment. The Animal Advisory Committee welcomes comments from citizens about any issue or concern. Your opinions are valued in terms of providing input to the committee members. However, it is requested at the same time when you address the committee that comments are not directed personally against a committee or staff member, but rather directed at the issues. This provides mutual respect between the committee members and the public. When addressing the committee, please state your name and address and speak clearly into the microphone. 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker, and our first and only speaker today is Elizabeth Calleja. Calleja. Oh, I missed one, sorry.
Don't worry, I'll be here next week. You can try again.
Would one of you time this? She gets 3 minutes. So when she gets to 1 minute, just tap on the microphone so she knows where we are. But you can state your name and your address while we're doing
Okay.
the timing.
My name is Elizabeth Calleja. I reside at 1702 Cottage Side Court, Brandon, Florida, 33510. I was here on October 24th, 2018, requesting that the board consider a pre-youth form to avoid wrongful euthanasia. I cited an example that happened a few months ago, and sadly, I'm here to report another more recent example of wrongful death that occurred 8 days ago that could have been avoided if this form had been used. November 15th, 2018, Jojo, a one-year-old German Shepherd, was set to go home with his family when Animal Services decided to euthanize him. Tampa Bay Times. These types of incidences do not help build confidence with the community. I've heard time and time again from the HPRC employees that they need the support of the community, but avoidable instances like these do not help build a good relationship with the community. The community has the right to know more than what these pre-youth reports show. It's just enough information to create a possible, it's just not enough information to create a possible solution. The good news is that we can start with the pre-youth form I have provided and that all of you have a copy of because it was also emailed to each and every one. And if for some reason you do not have a copy, I have left copies right here, so there is no reason for anyone not to have a copy. I have also made copies of the reports provided by the HPRC so that you can see they provide little to no information. I also left copies of our articles about the HPRC that you may want to review. It is important to know what the public's perception is in order to address it. Thank you, and I will see you at the next board meeting, hopefully with better news. Hopefully we can all celebrate the holidays knowing that we have done everything possible to avoid wrongful euthanasia. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that ends our public comment. Next on the agenda is the chairman's report, and that, oh, sorry.
Should I leave this here or should I give them out?
I think you probably could hand them out. There's not that many of us, if that's okay. Yeah,
Madam Chair, if I might be allowed to speak.
sure.
I'm not aware of any such thing that's happened in recent days. However, just doing a Google search, I see an article about something along those lines that's dated October 30th, 2013.
I have it here.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll wait to take a look at that in a minute. My chairman's report, I don't have a lot to report. This should have been my last meeting as the chair, but since we don't have a quorum, we can't vote on new officers, so I guess I'm going to roll over to the new year. The only report I really have is that I've been spending quite a bit of time at the Pet Resource Center, and as usual, it's been fantastic. I've still been volunteering, and 2 dogs were adopted out from under me before I could get them, which I think is really good news because that means that dogs are flying out there. And I've noticed recently there's been quite a few people in the Pet Resource Center looking at pets, hopefully as a gift for the holidays. They're giving a dog a gift for the holidays of a new home. So I'm very happy to see all of that. Did you have anything else to say?
One thing I did want to add, and I haven't checked the numbers this week, but as of last week, I think most of you know that we are currently working with Maddie's Fund on a special program called Get 'em Home Challenge. It's to get dogs that have been at the shelter for 30 days or more to get them a permanent home. And as of last Wednesday, we had 140 Get 'em Home adoptions of dogs that had been there 30 days plus. So we're very pleased with that. We have a very important special event coming up this Sunday, December 2nd. It's a family romp day. People can sign up at hcflgov.net /pets, and it's basically just to come out and play with our shelter pets and give them some attention and some time during the holidays. So would like to share that with the committee as well.
Okay. Can you give the date on that one more time and the
Yes,
time?
it's Sunday, December 2nd, and I believe it's 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the shelter.
And where do they sign up again, Lori?
They can sign up online on the county's website, specifically hillsborocounty.org /pets, I believe it is, but there's a special event. So we'd love to have folks come out and spend time with our dogs and cats.
That sounds great. And like I said, I've been doing the romp program, and it's not only good for the pets, it's good for the people. So it's therapeutic. So I recommend it to everybody. So anybody out there who's interested in volunteering, please sign up. All right, the subcommittee report. The subcommittee is comprised of myself, thank you, Joanne O'Brien and Judy Seltrick. And Since we do not have a quorum, we cannot vote on new officers this evening. So we will roll that over, I think. We can't even vote on rolling it over. We're just going to roll it over because there's nothing else we can do. The next thing is a department report. Do we want to go forward with that?
Sure.
Okay. So we have Dr. Campbell, whose name I now have correct, to give us the department report.
This is Dr. Heather Campbell, Shelter Veterinarian at Hillsborough County Pet Resource Center. I was asked to give a short presentation about considerations of the Pet Resource Center for screening tests for FELV and FIV at the shelter for cats there. So this short presentation is meant to review current information available on feline retroviral testing, current Pet Resource Center protocols regarding screening testing and diagnostic testing for feline leukemia virus and feline immunodeficiency virus, costs associated with testing, and potential changes to how the Pet Resource Center might use this diagnostic tool in the future. Please hold any questions till the end of the presentation. Feline leukemia virus is an infectious retroviral disease of cats, both domestic and wild species. It replicates by inserting its genetic material into the infected cat's cells. The national prevalence in several studies is around 3% of animals tested. Cats with FELV can be asymptomatic, but generally immune suppression is common, and often these patients eventually show signs of immune-mediated disease. They can have reproductive difficulties, although at the shelter we're generally less concerned with decreased fertility. Inflammation of the mucous membranes in the mouth, stomatitis, is a painful condition that's more common in these patients. Some types of cancer are also more common in these animals. The transmissions commonly considered to occur from very close contact, nursing, and breeding. Typically, this disease is diagnosed in the veterinary office by a point-of-care test that's readily available and sold by several large diagnostic companies. This test looks for antigen, which is parts of the virus itself. There's no treatment that has been proven to cure FELV. However, in some animals, retesting with the point-of-care ELISA can give a negative result at a later date. There are numerous confirmatory tests available by various diagnostic companies that can all have conflicting results and tests for different components of the virus. So traditionally, the lifespan of these cats is decreased compared to cats testing negative for this disease, including a large study from Banfield on their population of clients. But some FELV-positive cats can live a normal lifespan. So this is Snapdragon. She's a 2-year-old spayed female domestic shorthair who lives at my house. She came from a shelter that doesn't adopt out FELV-positive cats, and that's how she ended up with me. She's just had one little bout of herpes, but otherwise has been super healthy despite living with me, and I'm a source of infectious disease because of my current position.
How old is she?
She's 2. Feline immunodeficiency virus is also an infectious retroviral disease of cats. Essentially has the same replication pattern as FELV. The national prevalence is about the same. Cats with FIV can be asymptomatic, but in general, the immune system is also depressed. Stomatitis is also common here. Inflammation of the eye, neoplasia of various types, and general things like upper respiratory infections and diarrhea that are generally more difficult to resolve in these patients. Transmissions typically considered to be from deep penetrating bite wounds and other fighting activities. And typically the disease is diagnosed in the veterinary office by a point-of-care test that's readily available and often combined with the FELV antigen test. This test looks for antibody, which is the body's response to exposure to the virus. Most point-of-care brands will test positive if the cat has been vaccinated for FIV, although this vaccine is no longer being produced. There is no treatment that has been proven to cure FIV, and adult cats that are truly infected are infected for life. Traditionally, the lifespan of these cats is similar to cats that test negative for this disease. And this is Porter. He's an FIV-positive, neutered male cat who lived for 18 years in one of our employees' houses. So at the Pet Resource Center, there's a protocol in place for when cats are tested for FELV and FIV. Currently, we test sick and injured cats at intake before initiating treatment for disease. Cats that arrive at the shelter with infectious respiratory disease, sarcoptic mange, bite wounds, and severe injuries are not treated if they test positive for either viral disease and are euthanized. When the cat is pre-adopted or has surgery or an adoption exam to be made ready to go home, they are tested if they have not previously had a test at intake. If a healthy cat tests positive for FELV or for FIV, They are placed up for adoption in a specific set of kennels in the front that are labeled with the patient's positive status and a little bit of information describing the disease. When the patient is adopted, a technician answers questions about the pet for the new adopter. If a healthy cat tests positive for both FELV and FIV, they are euthanized at the shelter. And most cats that test positive for both diseases are sick at the time of diagnosis, and they usually have multiple pretty severe conditions. Currently in our protocol, cats are retested if they leave the shelter for more than 30 days and are returned. So this is Iris. She's my other cat. She's about 1.5 years old, spayed domestic shorthair. She was in a litter of 4 kittens, and she was the only one who tested negative for FELV in her litter of 4. She had URI when she left the shelter, but recovered uneventfully and has done well, other than an infection during her spay surgery. So here's a little perspective. There are approximately 90 million pet cats in the U.S. by recent estimates, and about 60 million community cats. Shelters intake approximately 3.4 million cats in the front door, and 1.3 million cats are adopted every year. So shelters, by these statistics, only see about 1% of pet cats in any given year. 99% are not seen by a shelter. Previous concerns regarding attempts to eliminate FELV and FIV from the outdoor cat population by test and euthanize are unlikely to be effective due to the very small proportion of cats that are available for testing and removal. The rate of FELV and FIV in the U.S. has been fairly consistently similar over the last few decades, even when tests and euthanize was very common. And this is Wally. He's an FELV positive cat, and he lives very happily in a house full of dogs. So back to our testing protocol, the Pet Resource Center relies on a single IDEXX snap test for identification of positive cases. They are not confirmed with any additional testing, and they're placed up for adoption with an identifier saying that they're positive. FIV tests are reliable as a positive test in adult cats, but negative results don't mean the patient doesn't have the disease, only that the antibody was not detected at the time of sampling. After initial exposure to FIV, it can take up to 12 months to test positive. And kittens under 6 months could have antibodies from mom against FIV, which translates to a positive test without conclusive evidence of the infection. We currently recommend retesting all FIV positive kittens under 6 months again after 6 months. FELV positive results are less cut and dry. It is possible for cats that test positive at one time point to test negative at a later date, and vice versa. Numerous other testing modalities, including PCR, are available to send out, but they can contradict initial testing and are expensive and often make the picture less clear as to the cat's true status. Typically, cats can test positive up to 30 days after exposure to FELV, and we test them at the Pet Resource Center usually sooner than 30 days after arrival. So these are my 2 cats, and they're snuggling and cohabitating peacefully at my house. On me, usually. So costs of testing currently are as follows. Our combo point-of-care IDEXX snap test costs $13.49 per test at a shelter discount. In the last calendar year, we recorded 5,038 test results, so about 13,000, no, that's not right, about 10,000 individual results in our system. And that means we spent $67,000 on this screening test in 2017 alone. That's about 30% of our medical supplies budget on this screening test for cats. And this is Iris, and she's just super cute and snuggly. I use this presentation as an excuse to put pictures of my cats. And so if you look at the number of positive tests that you see we saw in 2017, we had 30 positive FELV tests in our computer system for the calendar year, and 107 FIV positive cats. So our cost per positive test in 2017 was $500. Okay, now we get to play a game. This doesn't work as well because there aren't very many people here. But according to a study by Dr. Amy Burling that looked at 38,000 SNAP tests in shelters and in veterinary clinics across North America, which population do you think has a higher risk of testing positive for FELV? So our first one is owned cat or unowned cat. Anybody?
I would think unowned.
Okay, so they actually have the same odds of having FELV.
Oh, I misunderstood the question.
So who is more likely to test positive for FELV, a new pet visit cat at a veterinary clinic or a sick pet visit cat at a veterinary clinic? Sick. Very good. Sick pet visits are more than 4 times as likely to test positive for FELV as new pet visit cats.
Heads up copy of the test.
What about a healthy cat or a cat with upper respiratory infection?
Respiratory.
Excellent. Upper respiratory cats are more than 5 times as likely to test positive as healthy cats. How about a spayed female cat or intact male cat for FELV?
Spayed female.
Intact males are 1.7 times as likely to test positive as spayed females.
Oh, I would assume with the surgery.
Cats tested at the shelter or tested at a veterinary clinic?
That's got to be the same.
Pets tested at a veterinary clinic are 1.3 times more likely to test positive for FELV.
I'm not good at this test.
So this is Snapdragon. The first week she was at my house. She's super duper cute. And yeah, no, so that's all that. All right. So again, according to Dr. Amy Burling's recent study of 38,000 SNAP tests in shelters and veterinary clinics across North America, which population subset has a higher risk of testing positive on SNAP tests for FIV? Owned or unowned? Anybody?
Unowned.
So unowned cats are only 10% more likely to test positive for FIV. New pet visit or sick pet visit?
I was sick.
Sick pets. Sick pets are 4 times as likely to test positive for FIV than new pets. Healthy cat or cat with bite wounds? Bite wounds. Yay! Cats with bite wounds are 6.8 times more likely to test positive for FIV than healthy cats. Intact female or male cat, either intact or neutered?
Male.
Yes, male cats are almost 3 times as likely to test positive regardless of whether or not they're neutered as intact females. Tested at the shelter or tested in the veterinary clinic? Clinic, 1.5 times more likely to test positive for FIV in the clinic. And they discussed in this study if in the clinic they're more likely to test the cats if they have an issue, and that may be why that information is there. But they looked at the records to determine whether the cat was sick or healthy at the time of visit, new vet, et cetera. It was a pretty interesting study. And this cat is a very social FIV positive cat that was ready to go home at the Pet Resource Center when I took this picture in October. He's adopted at this point. FIV cats often have an increased length of stay at shelters despite usually being the most friendly and outgoing adult cats that we have in the shelter.
That's Oliver, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that looks like Oliver, yeah.
Okay, now we are at the final part of the presentation where we talk about the future and potential changes to the Pet Resource Center screening protocols. So currently, the Pet Resource Center tests kittens under 6 months for both FELV and FIV. Kittens under 6 months can have antibodies from mom and can test positive for FIV despite not having the disease. This can cause unnecessarily increased length of stay for kittens that are not infected, such as for this cutie. His adopter backed out due to the positive result, and he spent a few weeks in an employee's office waiting to find his forever home. Currently, our recommendation for these positive cases is to retest at 6 months of age. And kittens are also a very low-risk group who rarely test positive. Our strong recommendation for the new year 2019 is to eliminate testing for FIV for these kittens under 6 months. FELV only tests are only about half the cost of combo tests. And our recommendation will still be for adopters to talk to their veterinarian about testing a cat for FIV after 6 months of age when it's a more reliable test. Additionally, it's worth considering that kittens might benefit significantly more from vaccinating for FELV than from testing for the disease. The American Association of Feline Practitioners recommends vaccinating kittens for FELV, especially shelter kittens. Typically, our kittens are at the shelter long enough to receive either 1 or 2 vaccinations before they're adopted. And the difference in price between a standard vaccine and a vaccine with FELV added on for 2 vaccines is about the same price as a combo test. So if we switched those out, then we could probably benefit our kittens more by vaccinating them than by testing them at the time of adoption. It's also worth noting that using the FELV-FIV combo test as a screening test in healthy cats is not particularly efficient, as we noted in our risk of infection game. Healthy cats and owner-relinquished shelter cats have only about a 2% national incidence for FELV and FIV. Additionally, a positive test result has minimal effect on the pathway of the cat, other than to increase length of stay, as positive cats tend to linger in the shelter longer. On the other hand, sick, injured, and high-risk animals have a much higher incidence of FELV and FIV positive results. 4.7% of tested cats with oral disease were FELV positive in Dr. Burling's study, while a whopping 12.5% of tested cats with bite wounds or abscesses were positive for FIV. In these types of cases, there's a diagnostic purpose for this test, and the per-positive case cost is much lower. Best practice would be to continue to test these cats in all cases. And that doesn't mean that potential adopters could never know the status of their animals. If the Pet Resource Center needed to phase out testing of healthy cats due to budget cuts, such as the recent scare with the homestead exemption, which would have significantly cut the budget of the Pet Resource Center, Adopters would still have the option of adopting a ready-to-go cat that had been tested because at one time it fell into the sick, injured, or high-risk categories. Additionally, there's always the option of offering an add-on test for animals that are not yet ready to go. In these cases, adoption counselors would inform adopters of their options and allow the client to decide what works best for their home. Single cat households, or households with cats that have an unknown test status, may not be interested in finding out the status of a new cat. Additionally, communication with the area veterinary clinics that may see adopted patients would be notified in advance of the change so they could educate their clients on proper procedure. Adopters are already counseled to keep new cats separate to allow them to acclimate to the new environment before meeting other cats in the household, and also to take their new pet to the veterinarian within 3 days of adoption. This is Sweet Pea and Snapdragon when she was a little baby cat. Sweet Pea is my best foster cat dog, so she's how I determine if foster cats like dogs or not, because she will be the best dog in the whole world while they get used to her, and she won't bother them at all. So she liked to snuggle with Sweet Pea for a long time when she was a little kitten. I don't think she lets her anymore. So thank you for your time and attention. Today we reviewed current information about feline leukemia virus and feline immunodeficiency virus, testing for these diseases, current protocols at the Pet Resource Center, costs associated with this testing, and potential changes to how the Pet Resource Center might use this diagnostic in the future to meet the changing needs of the community. So right now, we're not planning on making any specific changes. I think it would be really reasonable to stop testing kittens for FIV. Most of our rescues have requested that we do this because it's really difficult for them to adopt out these FIV positive kittens that end up testing negative at their veterinarian after they're 6 months of age. In the future, these considerations may just be budgetary. So if we have a 30% of our budget to this one diagnostic test, one, could we be spending this money more efficiently on treating cats that otherwise we need to euthanize for budgetary costs? Or if we have a significant budget cut, I'd much rather cut a screening test that we may not be using very efficiently as opposed to treating injured animals that are on their stray hold waiting to see if someone's going to reclaim them. So on that aspect of it, if we end up in a situation where our budget is going to be cut regardless, rather than cutting across the board and decreasing live release rate, sometimes it makes more sense to talk to the community and say, hey, is this something you want? Is this something you don't want? Is this something you could get at your veterinarian? And worst case scenario, with a 2% national incidence, if 1 in 50 cats gets returned because they're a positive animal, is that the end of the world? So I think we may have a few minutes for 1 or 2 questions at this time. Yes.
Okay. This is Wendy DePaul. I have a question. So you said that it would be better to give the kittens vaccines rather than test them, but if they already have the disease, do the vaccines keep it from getting any worse? I'm not sure how the vaccines work.
So the vaccines don't affect kittens that are already infected with the disease. However, kittens are very low risk for infection. So adult cats are more than 3 times as likely to be infected as kittens. So if you're treating them before they're exposed, which is what we're hoping in this case, we're preventing their exposure. Potentially, a lot of our adopters have cats that they don't know the status of. So if they don't know the status, is the kitten potentially infected, or is the kitten going to get infected by an adult that already has the disease in the home? So that's something to consider as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentation, Dr. Campbell. We appreciate it, and I feel very informed.
Thank you for your time.
So now we're down to the second to last agenda item, which was other business. But since we cannot vote on the amendment to the bylaws, that's going to have to get rolled over for the next meeting. And the only other issue was topics for the next meeting. Is there anything that we need to discuss at the next meeting other than the 2 things that we've rolled over?
The calendar for
Right,
next
the
year.
calendar. Do I have
If you look at November and December, the meeting date for November, which is the 27th, falls on the day before Thanksgiving. Now, a lot of people travel that week. So I was thinking maybe we'd want to omit this date.
The Thanksgiving?
Yeah, the November and December meetings next year. One falls on the day before Thanksgiving, and the other one falls on Christmas Day.
Right.
Judy Seltzer. I don't think that we should do that now. What if we have problems when, we have hurricane season next year?
Well, we have voted to waive the 10-meeting rule of the bylaws.
Okay.
So the reason why I'm saying if we know we're not gonna be here, that way I can let HTV know. And I don't need to book that room, because I will need to book the room for next year.
Okay, I understand where you, I understand what you're saying. And so we don't have to have 10 meetings?
Well, we waived that, remember?
We only waived it for this year. We didn't waive, it's in the bylaws that we have to have 10 a
Okay,
year
so
unless we
then,
waive it, yeah.
in January, we'll need to talk about it.
Maybe we need to, and my recommendation was to amend the bylaws, because I think that even the 10 meetings a year is probably a little much, because there are some meetings when there's not a lot to talk about, and there's other times when we have so much to talk about that we need them every month. I think we should be more flexible with the number of meetings instead of, I think we should have a minimum number, not, you know, that was maybe a little lower, and then as needed, we can always add. But I can't bring that up, you know, that would be another amendment to the bylaws, because that is part of the bylaws. Oh, go ahead.
Joanne O'Brien. Some advisory boards, they meet like every other month. And if
Right.
we maybe needed another meeting, maybe we could just slip it in there. I don't know what your thoughts would be on that.
Again, that would be an amendment to the bylaws if we want to change the number of meetings. You know, like I said, right now, we don't have a lot going on, so we probably could be doing every other month. But then there's other times when there's hot issues. But we can, but like you said, once you have a minimum, you can always add. So, I mean, we can always put that up as a bylaw amendment. If we do it this month, then, because we have to give 30 days notice for any bylaw amendment, so we'd have to write it up, you know, before, because the meeting in January is the 23rd, it'd have to be written by December 24th, which would go to the previous Monday, because I think the 24th is or Friday, rather.
We're off on the 24th.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was saying it would go back to the previous Friday. So, yeah. I think that these look okay. I'm just looking for a couple of other holidays.
What about Memorial Day, July 4th? Oh, no,
It doesn't, yeah, because we're always at the end of the month. It doesn't
yeah.
really, okay.
I
Memorial
checked
Day's the end of the month.
all holidays in the calendar, Jewish and Christian.
Yeah. Oh, you looked already?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, because normally they don't look. That's why I was checking. But yeah, it looks like none of these are in the way of anything. So I would say at this point to move the November meeting to the Wednesday before, because obviously this is the Wednesday after, and we don't have a quorum. But I think if it was the Wednesday before, we can always, you know, once we amend the bylaws, we might be knocking it out anyway. But if we amend the bylaws, but we do need to at least have it, because if we don't have a quorum earlier in the year, and we want to get to 10, if we can't waive it, I would prefer to be better safe than sorry. Do you have to, how far in advance do you have to request the room and get the TV set up?
Typically, I need to put in the request at the beginning of December. Because this meeting happens in the afternoons, we wouldn't be competing with any other board, I don't think. But typically, any other board liaison goes for the room as soon as they can.
Okay.
The rooms are not allocated until the BOCC calendar for the next year comes out. But you need to have your request in early.
Okay.
And how much time would you need if we're going to cancel?
For canceling, it's just, you know, a couple of weeks before or so.
I think November, we could just move to the week before.
Good.
And then, but we never meet in December. I don't even think we needed December in there.
So then it would
We
be,
never schedule a December meeting,
so then it would be November 20th.
November 20th. We're not voting, this is just a suggestion.
Right.
We're just
Yeah.
writing it down so we don't forget.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put in the request.
Okay.
January through November.
Okay.
And whatever is decided at the January meeting, we can go ahead and readjust the calendar then.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. So we haven't adopted the minutes or anything like that because we can't vote on anything. So we're kind of, I think we're at the end of our meeting at this point. So I guess I can't even ask for a motion to adjourn because we can't vote on that either. So thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance and for everyone watching. And I hope everyone has a very happy New Year. Thank you very much. That concludes the
too.
meeting.